doing the biggest you've done it. Right, okay, everyone. One, two, three.
So the best example I can give is that we'll have a first year doctor who's got £80,000 to £100,000 of student debt. And what that means is that you're going to be paying about 9% of your salary back for the rest of your life because of that. We work very long hours, lots of nights, lots of unsociable hours. We get flung around the country, and it is a crying shame that we have doctors that are worried about having jobs and being able to pay the rent with the wages that they're on. Why is that? Because our pay has been eroded 21% since 2008. So that's kind of like working a day a week for free. We just want our pay erosion restored. We want to be paid fairly, and we want an excuse to stay in the NHS and do what we enjoy, which is looking after patients.
As we begin 5 days of totally unnecessary strike action by the BMA, I'm really proud of the way the NHS leaders and frontline staff have prepared and mobilised to minimise the disruption and minimise the risk of harm to patients. We've seen an extraordinary response, including people cancelling their leave, turning up for work, and resident doctors themselves ignoring their union to be there for patients. So I'm extremely grateful to all of them. What I can't do today is guarantee that there will be no disruption and that there is no risk of harm to patients. We are doing everything we can to minimise it, but the risk is there, and that is why the BMA's action is so irresponsible. They had a 28.9% pay award from this government in our first year. There was also an offer to work with them on other things that affect resident doctors' working lives, and that's why I think this is such reckless action. This government will not allow the BMA to hold the country to ransom, and we will continue to make progress on NHS improvement as we've done in our first year. And some of that has been stood down in advance, hasn't it? So there'll be some people in recent days who've been phoned or contacted to say your appointment this weekend has been cancelled, it's going to be rearranged.
But still significant group of patients that we would consider in urgent need of surgery that look like they've not got a procedure going ahead. But we would have gone ahead elsewhere.
Yeah, that's right.
And then obviously at the heart of that is our patient safety mitigating individual cases as we speak through the last 24 hours to try and seek derogation from the BMA about allowing us to ask a doctor.
Part of this point, when you speak to people groups of heats, it's like light to watch. They find it a lot harder to my team, for example, is a consultant and a it's not necessarily harder than any other specialities, particularly. It sort of just swings in terms of there being that's I think probably one of the reasons why I don't know.
No doctor wants to take industrial action. It's a form of last resort. I'd rather strike 0 days. But the most recent pay uplift that West Streeting gave us represents a 1% real terms uplift. At that rate, it would take roughly 20 years to restore a 21% pay erosion. West Streeting said that pay restoration is a journey. We're willing to take him on that journey, but that's far beyond the lifespan of this government. A first-year doctor who gets paid £9,000 less than their assistant gets paid £18 an hour, and we're asking for them to get paid £23 an hour, which is an extra £5 per hour increase. It doesn't have to be in one go, it can be a multi-year pay deal. and the strikes can be called off immediately. If you ask your audience, is a doctor worth £23 an hour? You get an astounding yes. If anything, it's a bargain.
Hopefully we'll all agree on safety being the priority, and that's what everybody's saying so far. There'll be a period where we'll have to settle into a bit of a rhythm and find a way of doing business with each other on all this. So this is really early doors, so we're just going through that first awkward bit now of receiving derogations, establishing the process that we've talked about, but it's actually live now. We just need to keep everybody calm and focused on the patients as best we can.
Okay, but you are taking a different approach to these strikes to the ones over the past 2 years. You want to see as many patients as possible. The BMA doesn't want you to see as many patients as possible. They're citing safety concerns. How will you meet? I mean, how will you continue to see patients if safety is concerned?
Yeah, so the difference this time is the NHS has put a huge effort in to try and get back on its feet, as everybody's been aware. We've had a really tough period, and you really feel their colleagues on the ground, local clinical leaders, clinical operational colleagues, etc., really pulling together to try and get the NHS back on its feet. And we also learned from the last few rounds of industrial action.
I'm part of an organisation called Keep Our NHS Public. I'm a retired nurse myself. I worked for the NHS for nearly 40 years and other charities that I worked for. But the issue about funding, paying doctors and nurses a decent salary now is crucial, because the NHS will fall apart if we don't do that. Waste Streeting has put a block on it, but actually it's an investment. If you pay our doctors well now, you will retain the doctors who are now currently leaving the NHS in droves to go to Canada, Australia, America even, where they can earn more money. So we need to look at what those doctors earn. Resident doctors are the backbone of the NHS. If you ask anybody who goes to hospital, they'll say it was a terribly long time waiting to get there, but once we were there, the NHS treated us brilliantly. But don't those staff work their socks off?